Welcome to Kings of Kimuras, your one-stop podcast for everything from mats to the stars. Join us as we dive into the heart of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, explore the thrills of MMA, and groove to the beats of music. But that's not all. We're also venturing into the unknown, discussing aliens and the mysteries of the cosmos. And of course, we'll be shooting the breeze, sharing stories, and laughs along the way. Get ready for a wild ride from a universe of topics. Strap in and prepare to explore the world of BJJ, MMA, music, aliens, and more. Let's roll.
Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of the Kings of Kimuras podcast. This is a Sunday morning. What is today's date?
I think it's like
the 14th.
Yeah.
So this podcast will probably be coming out at least like a week or two after this. So some of the topics that we're going to cover will be past, but let's see if we were right on some of our predictions of like events or whatever.
Yeah, we'll see.
So last time we talked about you going to England and competing and like having a good performance, like what is the next thing for you that's coming up?
I think the Dallas Open is the first weekend of August. I want to do that just because I want to get some points for these major IBJJFs coming up. Nogi Pans. And Nogi Worlds. I'm looking at doing Nogi Europeans because I do want to do another overseas trip. So I might like do the Dallas Open and then just kind of chill for August and September, try to save some money, and then head out and do that tournament in October.
And Nogi Pans is here this year, right? It's like in Fort Worth. Is that where it's at?
Yeah, I think it's at the Dickies Arena.
Okay.
Like it was last year.
Yeah.
I missed out on Nogi Pans last year, I think, because of Trials. I think Trials was around that time, East Coast. But yeah, I definitely want to do it this time.
Yeah,
for sure. I want to get gold at all these majors, the Europeans, Pans, and Worlds. I think if I can do that, it'll be a good stamp on my journey as a brown belt.
Yeah, and then we've got Nogi Worlds at the end of the year. That's going to be in Vegas, right?
Yeah. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad that they like moved that from Anaheim because it's like super expensive to go to Anaheim,
Yeah.
And a little bit cheaper for Vegas. The food's not too much cheaper, but like overall staying experience is a lot cheaper for travel.
Yeah, visiting Vegas is always really nice. Obviously, I'm sure living there is not great from what I've heard, but
yeah,
visiting Vegas is always a lot of fun. I always have a good time competing out there. So
yeah,
I'm not much of a gambler myself, but I don't think jiu-jitsu guys in general are because we don't have a lot of money. So
yeah.
But yeah, well, there goes my phone. But
let's talk a little bit about the Jiu-Jitsu World League. It's not like a big tournament, but yesterday we had a couple guys competing, and like Steven pulled out a performance. I think that's like, kind of showed him that he has more ability than what he thinks.
Yeah, absolutely.
We like got injured pretty bad in the first match, making that mistake of not slipping the knee line and allowing that knee to hit the floor.
Yeah, outside heel hooks are very are tricky because they come on pretty quick. At least with the inside, you can kind of like. I feel like it's a little bit easier to defend the inside sometimes because I think more people go for them. It is, I think, a more devastating break, but obviously outside heel hooks can be just as effective when they're applied correctly. And
the guy had that reverse figure four grip too. And as soon as his knee hit the mat, when he rotated out, it turned it into like that knee bar with the heel hook grip still.
Yeah, for sure. So it was tough. It was a tough first match, but the medic got him wrapped up. And then I was actually coaching another one of our guys on another mat, but I was still watching his match from the other side, and he was like playing this strategy of, because obviously he like really couldn't stand up to pass.
He tried at first. You
yeah.
know, he did like a good 30 seconds of trying to pass, but
yeah,
you could tell his leg did not feel good at all.
Yeah, for sure. And so like he just kind of played the IBJJF handbook, and he would get like a sweep and then immediately stand up and then pull again.
Yeah.
You know, and
stand up to the point of where he's like balancing on one leg, really. You know, like he legit could not stand on two legs. And,
even the referee was like, what is this guy doing?
Well, because there was a couple of times where instead of him standing up, he would just sit back and give up the 2 points, you know? And which is like, you can play that game when you're ahead, and he was ahead, but I think the fact that he showed he could change that strategy in the middle of this, you know, with the injury of like, oh shit, I need to stand up, and then to get the guy to stand with me, and then I'll just pull, and it negates all of that negative.
Yeah, for sure. I just thought that was funny. I'm like, dude, this guy's knee's injured, man. What do you want from him? Like, he's doing what he can. Like, he's trying to play strategy. He's probably not going to submit this guy, but he is still trying to win.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw it, but there's like a clear moment where Steven like brings his hand up to tap, and then he decides to keep escaping, and then he brings his other hand up to tap, and he like gets this close to the guy's butt and then rips his hand away because his foot pops out at the last second. The guy was faced the other way, so he couldn't see anything of it, but the referee was there. He was watching. He didn't see the tap, but I could hear people in the background like, did he just tap? I think he just tapped.
Gave him a good old Brazilian tap, you know? Yeah, I mean, but it didn't look like he actually.
No.
He was in some, some compromising positions for sure. I think that's just one thing that, as a whole, that we need to work on is just avoiding entanglements and staying safe while passing.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. You know, I'll step in and I'll kind of go into the fire a little bit, maybe a little too much, and sometimes I get burned. But, you know, I feel so comfortable there that sometimes I just kind of like forget about my legs. Like, okay, well, he's entangling me now. I'm going to either try to counter or just keep my escapes going because I have confidence in it. But, yeah, especially, I mean, I don't know how much experience Steven has in competitions where those kinds of leg locks are legal. I don't think it's a whole lot, right? I mean, it's
last couple of years maybe, you know, since he's been a brown belt.
Yeah, for sure. Because before that, he was kind of doing like more IBJJFs and stuff.
Yeah, gi-related events.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, you know, that's the trade-off, right? Is like, you know how to play the IBJJF strategy, but now your leg lock defense is just a little bit behind.
Yeah.
But always room to improve, always.
Yeah, he's definitely getting better, and in, you know, his second match, he showed that there were some times where the guy had like good entanglements on the leg, but he would escape. He was listening a lot better too. I feel like, you know, everybody's first match, it's hard to really find your groove. You just have to go out there and you have to do it. And by the second one, you're like a lot more focused and locked in. You're listening more. You know, you have an understanding of like, you know, mat surroundings and what's going on in the timer. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the more I would compete in a day, I would always like become more comfortable with it, you know?
For sure. And I think getting a really solid, it's hard to get a good warm-up in at a tournament like that when there's no warm-up mats or anything like that. But just getting a good warm-up in, I feel like negates some of that like first match pressure and nerves, because especially when you get a really good sweat going, I mean, it's just so much easier to go out there and perform because you start to realize like, oh, this is just jiu-jitsu. This is just another day. You know, like I can still go out here and perform. Even though I'm feeling nervous, doesn't matter. I can still come out here and do my thing.
Yeah, I'd say the negative is like I enjoy that venue because it is like a big venue and nice, but like the separation between the fans or at least like the fan area and where the coaches are at and even competitors is like so far. There's like, you got to go back and around upstairs and
right. Yeah.
You can't, it's not like other events where you can bring your own warm up area and warm up, and that's the one negative about a lot of these events is they just don't have a warm up area. They expect you to when you go to the gym and you warm up, you have access to foam rollers or mats or movement area, and then you go to a tournament and it's concrete.
Yeah, it's like completely different than what you're used to. Yeah, for sure.
So I think like building that, if we think about like warming up for competitions where there may not be something like that, you have to figure out some type of routine. And that's something I want to talk about this weekend. Our competition training is like helping people figure out some kind of warm up that feels normal to you that you can also do pre-tournament. Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, you may not always have the mat area to do that in. So
yeah,
you gotta be smart with it.
Got to come up with something that kind of mimics. I think that there's one tournament. I think it was the Dallas Open like a couple years ago, where I still got a really good warm up in, even without the warm up mats, because I just started moving. I was like shadow wrestling or like playing some. The only thing I couldn't really do is like do any like guard drills, because obviously you don't want your spine on the concrete before a match. But I still got a pretty good warm up in just doing movements, just doing what I would do in a match on the feet, and then from like a guard passing perspective too. But yeah, I think one of my issues is like I get super like tight and my feet get cold. That saying of cold feet, it's very true, because my toes will be pale, like ghost white, before I go out there. So if I don't get a good warm up, I have to like wake my feet up. Like, wake up, come on.
I would always like wear socks or like a couple pairs of socks to keep my feet warm, but then they were like sweating, and by the time you have like your second or third match, they're like soaked and you're just putting wet socks on now.
Oh no. Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah. But overall, like the guys performed pretty well. I mean, we had 2 silver medals. Steven medaled, and then one of our ladies medaled as well. But Colin had some good performances too. I think he just got that heart rate too elevated, like perfect storm for, getting sick, and it happens, man.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that happened to me. I was like, oh, this definitely looks familiar. I was in the same boat. But he still, like, all the matches that he won, he was really dominant. Like, he was getting takedowns. He was taking the back. He was getting to mount. Like, he was getting to dominant positions, even though he was not feeling the greatest. Yeah. But so, like, that's all you could ask for as a coach. Like, sure. I know you're not feeling too great right now, but just, try to do the best that you can. And he went out there and dominated these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a good performance from what I saw. And we had Skyler, who's like one of our newer guys, transfer from another school. He competed in his first match, which I did see and coached him in. He was attacking well. I think the other guy was just like extremely athletic and like really good defensively, and just put the pressure on him, and I didn't get to see his second match because I was with Steven during that time, but he definitely like was chaining attacks together well. I think it's just getting that like adjustment on the finish,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The finishing is always the hardest part.
Yeah.
Getting guys there is not easy, but I'd say easier than trying to finish.
Yeah. I even feel like for me now, there's not a lot of times that like I'm finishing upper belt guys, but I'm like maybe positionally controlling. But it's definitely like as you get better at your finishes, people get better at their defenses.
Yeah,
so you have to figure out new ways to set things up and get reactions and
just like keep it tight. Especially, I mean, everybody knows if you get mount and you get both arms up above my head, okay, you're probably gonna go for an arm bar here.
Yeah.
So, like when you move into that arm bar, I know like Tynan Dalpra's done this. I did it in one of my matches at Nogi Worlds, but you kind of like shelf the other arm, you get that arm out of the way, and then you can attack the other one.
Yeah.
So whereas like, lower belts, they're like, oh, the arm bar's here. I'm just going to like
spin
sit
off
back
and get it. Yeah.
Rip it. Like, no, I don't think that's really going to work as well as you think it's going to work,
Yeah. Yeah, the longer you go in training, you understand that like the smaller the steps, the better, really. You know, like you want to make all your adjustments possible. I think that's, you know, you talk about setting up submissions. It's like you want to be able to like set it up when the person is tired as well too, right? So you go to something 2 or 3 times. Don't get frustrated. Don't lose it. Just go back, reset, attack again.
Yeah, just reset the system and then keep going. Keep going.
So they've added in all of the guys at CJI now.
We got the full roster.
I feel like both of those divisions are like obviously way more stacked than any ADCC division.
Yeah, for sure.
Like some of these ADCC brackets they're adding in guys that I don't even know if they like won a trials or medal at a trials, but they're like, you know, an exciting matchup or something, or maybe they bring a lot of eyes on them or something from other countries.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. There was somebody I saw yesterday. I was like, wait a minute, this guy. I think it's especially at like the higher weights.
Yeah,
because I mean, there's just
not that many guys.
The heavier you get, you know, the less guys there are to compete against. You know, like. So I mean, Craig's stolen a lot of those heavyweight hammers. But yeah, I'm just like, who even are some of these guys? Like I've heard of them before, but they haven't really done anything.
This Dashi Goto, you know who that guy is?
No, there's not even a picture.
I guess that's him right there. But he got the -99 invite. But I know the guy didn't medal. You know, he's just like had some exciting matches, and they need guys. They may not even be able to find enough guys that like can legally enter the United States.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. Yeah, I was like, we'll pay for your visa, bro. Come on.
Yeah, I was hoping that with that plus 80 in the CJI, that they were going to get Buchecha. You know,
that would have been crazy. That would have been a crazy addition.
I feel like you know, maybe the $1 million purse for him is not enticing enough because he is fighting for ONE FC, and I've heard that they pay really well over there. You know,
for sure. Yeah, I think. I mean, also he just like doesn't really have anything to prove. To anyone. Like he's been there, done that.
Like 10 or 12-time world champion or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's like 13.
Okay.
Like in the gi. I think he's in like the Guinness Book of World Records. You know what I mean? So he doesn't, from like his own ego, it's not even, he's already been there and done that. He doesn't need to compete anymore. Sure. Not in jiu-jitsu. You know, I mean, in MMA, I think he's still like...
He's a challenge in that because it's like way more difficult, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I saw that like in his last fight where he kind of like had to fight through the fire. You know, that big giant dude. Yeah, he was like, was it like a Congolese wrestler? Uh-huh. Yeah, and those guys they're all giants, all of them. Yeah, you know, you don't get people built like that in anywhere else but the Congo, right? Yeah, you know? Yeah, it's a very like rare breed genetically. Like, that guy's a genetic freak. Yeah, and I mean, if you look at, so he was like their native wrestling style. Mm-hmm. He was like a champion in that over there, and all those guys are all built just like him. Mm-hmm. They're all huge. They're all just like tree trunk legs. Is that the one where they use the pants, like only pants, and they have like a belt grip on it or something? Yeah, it's kind of like I don't want to call it like sumo, but it's kind of like rolled up, where it's like rolled up, and they use the grips on that to like turn and take people down. And stuff. And the hand fighting, quote unquote, is a lot. They start like this. Yeah, they like start like this, and then they like come in and then try to engage from there. Yeah, it's a pretty like unique style of wrestling, but he was like a champion in that over there. So I mean, it showed to be effective. You know, like he was definitely like winging some punches and stuff. But there was a couple times he connected, and that's a lot of power behind that guy. If he learns how to accurately strike and like maintain his stamina, you know, I feel like he could be unstoppable. But right now, it seems like his biggest weakness is that cardio. Yeah, for sure. I forget. I don't know what this guy's name is. Like, maybe we could edit this in. But, yeah, this dude's a genetic monster. Like, he's kind of like an Ngannou, where it's like he has all this, like, just raw power.
And if he can kind of hone it and focus it into his techniques, then he's going to be a real problem for sure.
Yeah, I don't even think that guy needs to learn submissions, like
No,
just like get you down and then ground and pound you. You know,
he
like,
put you in half guard,
Yeah.
posture up, and then just rain bombs.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Get in that like true half guard where his like knee is on the mat between the legs and just start hammering fisting.
Yeah, that's a scary. I would not want that guy on top of me. That's for sure.
So the last guy that they added in CJI, what is his name?
For the plus 80,
Yeah.
right? Greg Kirkvliet.
Yeah, he's like a D1, the number one D1 wrestler.
Yeah, he just won nationals
Okay.
at heavyweight.
But
He's
they're,
really
like,
tough.
He's the number one D1 wrestler at heavyweight, right? There is no like absolute type tournament for.
Yeah, no, that would be so cool if they had
Yeah.
something like that, because I think you'd see a lot of upsets. But yeah, he's the number one in the country at heavyweight. I think he just graduated. Like this was his senior year,
Okay.
and he won finally because. At his weight, it was Gable Steveson and Mason Paris. Like those two were kind of battling for the top spot. But Greg, I think, beat Mason a few times, but he just could never beat Gable, just because Gable's the way that he is. He's just a stud. So he finally won it this year, and this will obviously be his first ever jiu-jitsu or submission grappling tournament. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with like the guard and like guard players and stuff, because there's some big guys in there. I honestly think that Craig will probably match him up with like Luke Rockhold or like Nicky Rod first round, because
Some exciting match.
somebody who will actually like wrestle with him and not just immediately pull guard. But I think that should be, if you're a grappler, that should probably be your strategy, is try to pull and then either set up wrestle ups or try to entangle his legs to get on top.
Yeah, I would say like try to wrestle up to a single and then drop back for a leg.
Yeah,
If that
for
was
sure.
Like a tactic, that's what I would go for. And Muhammad Ali is like coming back out of retirement. I saw that guy compete in 2019, and he's such like a freak. You think that he would have competed last ADCC too, but I guess that chance to win only $10,000 was like not worth it.
Yeah, not enticing
another guy
enough.
doing MMA, right?
Yeah. He's making his transition into MMA, so not enticing enough.
So Pat Downey is in there.
You could have.
I watched Pat Downey compete in the ADCC East Coast Trials 2019, I think it was, or whenever, maybe not then, whenever the last one was, 2020, 2021. And he like clearly didn't know any submissions, or submission defense, but I know he's been training it with Cyborg. So I don't know if he's learned any more submission offense or defense.
So he's learned to know more.
Yeah, he's definitely gotten a lot tougher. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely going to be hard to submit. I feel like what are you going to do? Take this guy's back or something? Like, you really just have to entangle him and then try to put him on the bottom, which is obviously easier said than done. But you can. That's the beautiful part about jiu-jitsu and the guards, is like they work really well against people like that. Like if you can threaten wrestle ups and you can pull them into your guard and you can put them in single leg X or X guard, you can definitely get a sweep from there. Or you can threaten the back. Like there's a lot of different options.
Yeah, I feel like Pat Downey's gonna be like definitely difficult for some people to handle.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a gamer.
Did Nicky Rod and him have a wrestling match at one point?
Yeah. It was like a freestyle wrestling match.
Okay.
And obviously, that's Pat Downey's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So Nicky Rod got teched pretty quick. But
who do you think the favorite is to win that division? You think it's going to be Mason Fowler?
I'd say Mason has a pretty good shot. Who else is in there at that plus 80?
Tackett.
Yeah.
William Tackett.
That's tough. That's tough for William. All those guys are huge. So
I kind of wish that he would have gone in that minus 80 with his brother, like the Rotolos did.
Yeah.
Like
that's like, I don't know if. I think he's like very, very solid technically, but those guys are just huge. Man, you got like the That guy we saw at World League yesterday, Bomb.
Oh yeah.
That guy is gigantic.
Yeah, you get that guy first round.
Yeah,
he's fresh. I feel like Tackett can definitely get to the back. He's going to be smart and tactical with his positions, but those guys are big,
Yeah,
and he's
they're
definitely
giants.
giving up, like, I would say minimum like 10, 15, maybe 20 pounds on the lightest guy in there. Everything else is more.
Yeah, everybody else is way heavier.
So we got that in the minus 80. Who do you think is the favorite in there?
I mean, I don't even. That's such a stacked bracket.
I'm
don't even know.
surprised that Barbosa was able to make that division.
Yeah, he's shrunk a little bit. I think maybe the acai is like wearing off a little because he did. He was like a heavyweight or like super heavy IBJJF for a while, and then he had a match with Pedro Rocha at like medium heavy or middleweight. I was like, this guy's a middleweight now? Mm-hmm. This is crazy. Like, I think because he was also trying to do MMA, and
it didn't work out for him.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that, but that's probably why he's a little smaller now. Mm-hmm. I don't even know who the favorite would be. There's so many good guys in there. I would say the dark horse or like the more slept on guy would probably be like Joseph or Andrew's got a good shot at winning it too.
Yeah.
But like even somebody like Andy Varela could have a stellar performance and like take out some guys. So it's just really whoever shows up that day. Like you'll get more of a sense of who's gonna win this thing when you actually see them roll. Who's actually gonna show up.
Yeah, I feel like Ty probably has got to be the favorite.
Yeah,
I can't see too many people beating him.
Yeah, Cade and Ty. I mean, I think if everything works out for them, they'll probably be in the finals together.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have a fake match,
No, because they've already had those matches before, real matches,
Yeah, they had a real match at Gi Worlds and they were brown belts, and they were like trying to kill each other. Yeah. It was crazy. Like going hard on subs. I'm like, I guess you can do that against your brother.
For sure, yeah. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back. All right, guys, we're back. We're just wrapping up talking about that CJI. It's going to be a pretty exciting event. We're going to do a little of an event here at the Corvo Plano where we'll have one of our guys that has a truck with TVs in it. It's going to park it out front, trying to attract some people in the neighborhood. Be a cool little event. The thing that I've like noticed about working down here or having a space in downtown Plano is how everybody in the community, like all the other businesses, are like willing to work with each other. And where I'm at right now in Richardson, not a business I really want to work with.
Yeah. So, the space next door, kind of need them to skedaddle. They need them to get out of here because they just cause a lot of problems.
Yeah,
for sure.
The police are always there, but fortunately for us, it's not at the times of like operation of business. It's like 4 a.m.
Right. It's when the hooligans are out.
Yeah, people like in the neighborhood can't appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, they'll be shooting across the street. Like you showed me that video one time. One of the security guards, like, dude shot at the security guard, starts driving away, and the security guard starts shooting while they're driving away, and like you can tell like bullets are flying past the street. Like, dude, you could, if one of those stray bullets hits a passing car, like obviously it's like 4 a.m. so probably nobody on the road at that time, but God forbid there's a car coming the other way and one of those stray bullets hits.
Yeah.
Like because every round of ammo that comes out of your gun, you're responsible for. Mm-hmm. So
I just wonder where all of these rounds are ending up. Like I want to go across the street at that Tom Thumb and like look at the wall, where are their bullet holes at?
Or like the Dutch Bros that's across the street. I'm sure they've gotten hit with a couple.
Yeah.
You come in the next day and there's like coffee leaking all over the ground. Like what happened?
Yeah, that's it's a weird part of like business to consider that like your neighbors can become an issue. It's like just like having a house or anything else,
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not something that I thought about whenever like I initially set out to start a business. It's like all the things that happen along the way are like, oh, I didn't even consider stuff like this,
Yeah, I didn't even consider that. They're putting guns in the hands of people who probably shouldn't have guns in their hands, period, like at all.
Yeah.
And let alone like high-powered rifles, Like, do not put a rifle in this guy's hand. Like this, there was another incident where this guy was like simping for this girl, trying to impress her or whatever, and then she takes his pistol and then starts shooting it. First of all, it's right next to this dude's head.
Yeah.
And then the security guard, he's walking straight towards them. I mean, he's walking right in that direction. And then he hears the shots go off, and then he turns completely the other way. Like, bro, they're right in front of you shooting, and you're, like, turning around. And, like, oh, the shots come from this way? Like, dude, you see what... There's, like, sparks coming from this direction.
But they're, like, in full tactical gear, too. Like, they're going to war.
Yeah, they got the whole SWAT outfit
That
on.
guy was there yesterday after Open Mat. Did you see him standing out there? This dude was built like a oversized G.I. Joe.
Like definitely on steroids.
Dude, he was huge. I don't know how big that guy was, probably like 6'6" or something, but easily like 260,
Yeah, that's the guy you do not want to mess with.
I saw a video one time of him where he got in a fist fight with somebody. Did you ever see that one?
And he knocked the dude out.
Yeah. But in the process of him like knocking him out, the guy's gun flies off of his hip,
Oh,
and like,
that's right.
So now, not only is he like still beating this guy up, but he's also like every time he hits the guy, he looks for the gun. Now, hits the guy, looks for the gun, and finally he grabs the gun and puts it back on, and then like beats up another guy too. It's crazy.
God.
Like what started the fight was one of the employees of that business sucker punched the guy. And he fell into the big guy. And so when he fell into him, he thought he shoved him and attacked him. So he beat him up.
The dude's already rocked.
But instead of like him just being like, hey, what just happened? His instinct was to beat the guy up. He's just waiting really to beat somebody up.
Oh, yeah. There's too much testosterone and trend running through this guy's system.
Yeah. No way a guy like that lives another 10 years. Like, not alone just doing the amount of steroids, but, like, that lifestyle of, like, shooting and assaulting people. Somebody's going to either come for that guy or something's going to happen randomly.
Yeah, for sure. When you live a life like this, and karma's definitely going to come back around and bite you. Even if the steroids don't kill you, it'll probably be somebody else who comes by who you beat up.
Yeah, it's like yesterday when Steven got his knee hurt, I think it was earlier this week or last week where he hurt KJ's knee.
Yeah.
And I go, man, I didn't want to say anything to you, but like that's a real thing. If you injure somebody, that comes on you.
Dude, it's true.
Until you get hurt, and then you pass it off. And I go, you pass it to that guy. That guy will have a knee injury next time you see him.
Yeah, you passed it off, dude. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, even if it's not intentional, like it's that stuff still happens. Like, because to a certain degree, like in jujitsu, obviously you're trying to force a person to quit. So you're having to a certain extent, put them in some kind of physical pain. And so like with that considered, it's like you can't be really surprised when stuff like that comes back around. Mm-hmm. Like I know in my first super fight, I injured this guy's leg a little bit with the inside heel hook, and then I think like a few super fights later, I ended up getting my knee like almost a full MCL tear, in my knee from like a Kani Basami, and I was like, well, that's just kind of like the game that we play here, you know. It's like if you injure somebody, even if your intentions are, man, I just wanted to put this guy in pain so he'd tap, you are trying to break a limb out there. Like you are trying to put this guy in so much pain that he's either got to tap or his limb's going to break or he's going to go unconscious. So that's just the game. That's the risk that you take when you step out there.
It is for sure. Yeah, I always I would much rather like choke somebody out than break somebody's arm or their leg, but like I've definitely like injured somebody's knee or their arm before, and it's just part of it. And I was never the type of competitor that would like apply it to where like it was going to break, and then I would like back off of it. I just always want 100%.
Yeah, you just got 100%.
I just expected the same thing from everybody else. Like I think if you go in with that mindset of like, hey, if this guy catches a sub, he's not going to go light on it. You can either learn to tap faster, or you are more aggressive in your submission offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just being a competitor, I know you kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit, but when you're a competitor, you're very much like thinking of yourself most of the time. You know, like you're in a very selfish mindset. And when you go out and do a tournament with that kind of selfish mindset, you're not worried about the other guy. You're not worried if he's like going to be okay or not after this, like you're trying to go out there and do some damage. And, like we said, that stuff will definitely come back around, but being a competitor is very much a selfish thing. Like Hamza Bahal talked about it. I saw when he got his like second or third degree, he was kind of because at that point he was more of like a business owner and running his own gym. And he was like, yeah, for a long time, I was a very high level competitor, obviously. And I had to just worry about me most of the time. Like 99.9% of the time, I'm having to worry about me and my career. But now that he had transitioned into being more of a business owner and a coach, it's not about you at all. Like it completely switches from you being selfish to you trying to elevate everybody else in the room. You very much switch from being a selfish person to being like a people person and worried about bringing the right people in, not bringing in people who are like crazy or going to be a detriment to the gym.
Yeah, I know for me, when I made that transition, like I still have aspirations of competing, but it's very difficult when like you're teaching classes or like, especially dealing with beginners. It's not like I can go, even in the time when it's time to do rounds, if there's like an even number of people and I make the odd, I'm not going to make somebody sit out that like came in for their lunch break or came in after work. And so I try to get a lot of rounds on the Saturday. That's when I get most of my rounds, but I get a good amount of time of drilling. I can like, especially like in the noon class when there's an odd number of people, I can jump in and grab somebody. But it is very hard to get it. Like, I feel like most of my training is like very sporadic. And I have certain days that I prefer to train, but even on those days, if there's nobody for me to train with, then it's like I might get 2 or 3 rounds at the end of the class,
Yeah, for sure. Because you're, like you said, you're worried about forming with the people who have come in.
Yeah.
You're worried about forming that relationship with them so they want to keep coming back and continue on their journey. So I know that's something for me that I've had to learn. Maybe I have to miss a couple rounds at the end of class to really just sit down and talk with these people, see what their goals and their motivations are, and how I can keep them coming around or how I can try to sign them up. And it's obviously like the money will come, but you have to be a people person first when you're trying to run things.
Yeah, I think somebody said something to me about when we had like our grand opening over here. There were so many people here that I wanted to train. I was dressed out to train, but like everybody wanted to talk to me, especially people that were coming in and seeing the place. And, that's some of those things that like you have to miss out on in order to make other things happen.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's like the more people you can get in here, the better, and then eventually, like over time, when the people get a little more experienced and they start to feel more comfortable, then you can start training with them a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I've had some new guys come in for like the Tuesday and Thursday night classes. And obviously we do a lot of those games based approaches. So even when they roll with like, somebody else who came in like around that same time, they just kind of play the games, when we do rolls or whatever. I like sit down and watch and make sure they're not doing anything crazy or spazzy. But usually they just stick with the games that I show them.
Yeah.
And they just add more resistance over time. So
yeah, it's easier to like explain one of those like little simple games than like this is your whole objective. You got to pass the guard, you got to take the back, you got to apply choke or whatever, you know. Like if you're just like, we're only going from here to here, it makes it easier for a person to pick up on the first day.
Yeah, it's easier to digest for sure.
Even on my trials lately, like when it comes time for warm-ups, I won't show them how to hip escape or reverse hip escape because I feel like some people are good at it, but you know, I would say more than 50% of people are not good at it, and they feel like this is the first thing that I'm doing, and I can't even do this.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we do. I do like collar drags and forward and backward. That's pretty easy. Everybody can do that, you know. And then I'll do like maybe some like knees on the mats or sprawls.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
we get through like 4 exercises out of like 10 or 12. In the Rubios, I'll have them do that. And most people can do that. You know, I feel confident and they'll like enjoy the experience more than me like trying to be like, no, you need to forward roll and like day one, you know?
Yeah. So. Yeah. I know I've been at some other gyms where people will come in for trials and they're like literally just doing the warm-ups the whole time.
Yeah.
And that might be just because they're like maybe not comfortable with like grabbing somebody right away and like you still want them to get something out of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like sometimes you just got to jump right in there. And like obviously nobody's trying to go 100% when we're doing these drills or anything like that. But some people just aren't that comfortable with actually like grabbing a hold of somebody, you know, especially if you grew up and you didn't really have any like siblings or you didn't really have any friends that you could kind of like roughhouse with, or maybe you just grew up in an environment where roughhousing was kind of like frowned upon. It's difficult when you become an adult because then you don't have any experience at all trying to like grab somebody and like try to move them around. So it's like, okay, if you can't move somebody around right now, that's totally fine. Just focus on moving yourself and controlling your body. Yeah. And then it's going to be a lot easier to control somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, we've gotten some of those people that are, you know, like I guess the biggest thing that people say about the reason they want to do jiu-jitsu is that they are looking to learn self-defense. Like when I look at the reason most people fill out their information is that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But most of these people that want to learn self-defense have like never been in any altercation. It's the fear of being in a physical altercation that's like pushed them to the point of wanting to learn a martial art.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So then like whenever they do actually make contact with somebody, you can feel that it's like a very rigid, but like not effective holding, you know, or positioning. It's like, you know, you teach somebody how to pass the guard and they're like, hips are way up in the air, you know, so it takes a while. And so I feel like putting people in those situational games is much better than, like you said, having them do warm-ups. You imagine going somewhere and you're like, for 45 minutes, we're going to learn these warm-ups and you're going to get it down perfect and we're not going to move on from it.
Like, all right, awesome, bro. Like,
yeah, we can have somebody working an arm drag, an elbow pass, or a duck under in like 15 minutes of training, you know, and like looking decent at it too.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's like, how are you going to, if they are coming in for self-defense and you're just having them do warm-ups, how's that gonna apply?
Yeah.
You know, like, are you gonna do a hip escape on concrete? Like, how about let's not get to the ground first, but by not letting them have connection to us, you know? Like, I know there was this one lady who came in for a trial, and I told her, I was like, look, if you don't take anything else away from this class, take away this. If somebody's trying to grab you, you break their grips and you just get out of there. Don't go to the ground. Like, because obviously you have zero training, right? So like you got to start somewhere. And I think if you just start with not having them make connection to you, then you're well on your way. Like that's pretty much all jiu-jitsu is connection and breaking connection. Yeah, that's where it starts. If somebody can't grab you, they can't impose their will on you, and it's very, very easy to get away from them. Yeah. So I was like showing her some grip breaks, and like, okay, if somebody grabs your wrist like this, you know, you circle your grip out and you break the grip, and then you just you leave. Or if somebody tries to grab you by the neck, that's how you're gonna clear this grip or this grip. So I think even though like she didn't end up coming back or signing up, I hope that at least that stuck with her, you know. with most people, that's what I try to tell them is like, look, somebody can't impose their will on you if they can't get a hold of you or if they're not in range to grab you, you know?
Have you ever seen that video where it's a guy, I think he's like on the news, some local news channel, and he's showing how to defend against a choke, and he's a super jacked dude, and he puts this lady in a rear naked choke, and then she grabs the back of her head with both hands and pulls her chin into like his forearm, and he's like, you know, like stopping it.
Oh my God.
I posted a video about like a good Samaritan in Guam that was able to like stop a guy that had shot someone and caused a wreck. He was able to subdue this guy with like a rear naked choke.
Oh, I saw that video. Yeah.
And like everyone is like, that wouldn't work. You know, that wouldn't work. Like,
what if I just gouge your eyes out, bro?
People are like, I'll just punch backwards, you know, like I'll punch over my head. Like that is so ineffective, especially if you're able to turn your face to the mat and keep their head as like a block, you know, like the only way you'll be able to punch is up and around, and it's just not effective.
Yeah, there's no power. You're going to sleep
if you have like a knife or something, you know, yeah, but then like, what if the guy on the back had a gun? You know, like the people on the internet are pretty funny because they will like create these scenarios like past what the video shows.
Right, yeah. It's like, well, if it was me, well, if it's you, dude, you're probably getting put to sleep.
Yeah. But there is like a real potential issue, you know, it happened in New York where that Marine choked out a guy and killed him.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that guy was like assaulting people or was he just like, you know, getting loud and aggressive with people.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know the context of that video, but I mean, from what it looked like he was at the very least harassing people and like threatening physical violence. You know, and I think especially if the person's kind of unstable and they're threatening physical violence on other people, you gotta deal with this guy. You know, you gotta put him down.
Just have to be aware of the city and state that you're in when you're doing stuff like this, and also you need to be aware of like, you know, how long can you hold a choke before somebody dies. And the guy in Guam, he applied the choke to where the guy would pass out, and then he would loosen off of it and allow the guy to come back to and wake up, and then he would choke him and put him out again. So if you're going to do it, maybe that's the way to do it. I'm not sure, man. I would hate to, like, choke somebody once and then, like, they're in a coma or something, and I'm, like, in prison for life for helping someone.
Yeah, they have, like, a seizure or something like that. Yeah, because you never know, you know, if especially if they're on some kind of drug.
Yeah.
You know, if you put them completely unconscious while they're on drugs, they might not even if you loosen up on the choke, like, and they do get blood back to their brain, the drugs might just keep them unconscious, you know, like, especially if it's something like fentanyl or something like extremely strong.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like, how do you try to subdue this guy without having to like put him completely out or like cause any like physical damage?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. I think of like when I do that police training, most of my stuff is getting the back and then just getting double wrist control.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's probably like the best control you could possibly get in. I was like taking their hands and putting them behind their back, you know, like a resting style, but then like, okay, here's like my vital organs and like my balls are there. So like, that's probably not in a self-defense situation. Don't put somebody's hands where they can grab something that you don't want them to grab.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I feel like the double, you know, maybe like body triangle and double wrist control, flattening them out, or even like pinning their hands against the chest with that body triangle or the hooks in. You know, that's got to be your better option.
Yeah, for sure. It's like and then if they try to turn, like maybe riding the legs, like keeping the legs controlled, and then controlling the upper body, like 2-on-1 on the wrist, like Dagestani handcuff style.
Yeah, I know a lot of the police training they show is not mount. It's like leg riding where you're keeping the knees pinned together. You know, it's a lot easier to kind of control somebody there as opposed to being where they're flat and they can, even if they don't know how to bridge, right, they're still shoving you off and sometimes get you off balance. So if you can shut down their legs, that's probably a lot better option.
Yeah, absolutely. All about the control.
Yeah. So you got anything coming up you want to talk about? Any sponsorship opportunities that you got recently?
I
know you're
not really. I
working on
am
one.
still looking for sponsors.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I do want to. It's in Rome this year, but no gi Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in sponsoring me, please do hit me up. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I don't have Twitter because Twitter is a cesspool of just nonsense. So I try to stick to just Instagram and Facebook. All my information's on there at DRamosBJJ. The more sponsors I can get, the better, you know. Even so, I know some people don't like how my feet look on camera. So if you're like a sock sponsor or something like that, whatever. I'll take whatever I can get. Any help that I can get will be greatly appreciated for sure.
Awesome, man. So another episode down, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's Kings of Kimuras episode. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey. Remember to keep training, stay curious, and always be ready for the next adventure. Until next time, keep your guards up and your minds open.